All right, welcome to the February 28th meeting of the Health and Education Committee. Our first order of business is to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Health Department report. How are you, Ms. Garrett?
Good. Good evening. I've got a couple of things for you today. The first is my monthly report for January. And we're starting off the year, it looks like pretty steady in all of our programs where we were expected. We saw across the board in January, across Tennessee, a little decrease in WIC numbers. So we also saw that here in Rutherford, which is kind of unusual because most months I'm showing you that's going up. There had been some changes. Sometimes when changes happen to food stamp packages, SNAP, that will affect our numbers, but it's kind of hard to tell exactly what caused that to just not be exactly where it was last year, but everything else seems to be going good. Twice a year I report to you guys about our patient satisfaction surveys that we do, and we see about 250 patients a day between our two facilities, and usually for about 2 weeks we kind of do surveys with all of our clients. We had 96% that reported they got an appointment within the time frame they wanted it. 99% said they were shown courtesy and respect when they're there for their visit. 100% got all their questions answered. 100% said the facility was clean and comfortable. 100% said that they would encourage family members and friends to go to our facility. Wait times for our patients, we had less than no wait time was around 19% in Smyrna, and no wait time 9% in Murfreesboro. Under 15 minutes was 55% in Smyrna and 53% in Murfreesboro. 16 to 30 minutes was 22%. So anyway, it's just showing that within an hour we get everybody but 2% through their completed service at the health department, and that includes some pretty complicated medical cases and different things there, so complicated nutritional cases. So I thought that was very positive. I wanted to bring that to your attention and brag on our staff a little bit. They had very many positive comments. There's a place to write comments. The only one negative we got, which is to be expected, was one person said that the construction caused parking issues. But we worked really hard on that down in Murfreesboro. Mayor Burgess and the maintenance and Melissa Street have helped us get signage and all that to try to let people know where to park and to also figure out where the construction guys can park. So, but besides that, everything was really positive on our reviews. 96% on every question answered or higher. So.
Do you know how, is that anything that you see how other health departments compare, or is this just something you do uniquely to?
Yes, no, we do that across the state.
Okay.
And Mid-Cumberland, which is the Middle Tennessee region, so then they lump them together, and the Mid-Cumberland is always very high in their patient satisfaction surveys information.
And do you have a registered dietitian on staff?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We have several.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because I mentioned something to Ms. Street at the insurance committee meeting the other day. I don't know if she reached out to you or not, but they were talking about needing to use registered dietitians. I guess they're the only ones who can give meal plans. And so we're talking about, was there
For who? Meal plans for employees?
Yes.
Oh,
We're talking,
okay.
is there any way for them to be utilized? And I told her, I don't know if there was any overlap. I don't know about state money. I don't know about any of that, if it would work at all.
I told her we can do some employee wellness programs that are available to all community residents.
Okay.
That are really great. It's kind of like a lifestyle balance type classes. It wouldn't be individual meal plans.
Okay.
That would be quite a bit of work for someone to individually do a meal plan, but you can go to these lunch and learn type. So I'm working with her and Sonia Stevenson to kind of set up some lunch and learn things for the employee wellness. And because yes, that's something we're always trying to reach different employers and churches and community groups.
So why not our own? Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Why not our own? And we have a great one for kind of pre-diabetes, which a lot of Rutherford County falls into. Even if you don't have diabetes, you're probably close. or have a family relative, it makes you have some higher risk standards. So we can work with through our diabetes program, which has an RD and an RN in it as well.
And then do you want to talk at all about the Catalyst meeting, United Way Baby Shower kickoff?
Yes, so we had the big United Way baby shower event in February, but we were planning and getting that all ready with the community to get ready, and I'll have all those numbers for next month, but we moved it from a weeknight to a Saturday, and we saw, 3 times as many pregnant moms and future dads. So that was exciting because all of them got good information. We kind of had little information classes they had to go to win all their prizes. So we kind of tricked them into learning about good parenting techniques and stuff. And those were meetings we did to kind of get ready and plan for those because it was a huge event.
Your immunizations,
Yes.
I just noticed, Smyrna, there's a ratio between Murfreesboro and Smyrna. Murfreesboro is higher in all cases except for this immunization. Smyrna's way up and double from last year.
Yes. Yeah, so our immunizations have been doing crazy. If you remember a couple of reports ago, we had really low numbers for the year in both Smyrna and Murfreesboro because we're seeing so many resources pop up that now have federal vaccine program so they can go and get their vaccine at a reduced rate. So we also have the mobile health unit. We have primary care and hope. So I saw some numbers really decreasing in that, and that kind of made sense. The only reason I can think that we've gone up when I look at the inventory of vaccines and what we've given, in January, towards the end of December, they made the flu shot free. We always get an influx of people who come once it's totally, all the cost is removed. There's no barrier at all. And I think that's where we got that influx in Smyrna this year. It does always.
Demographic-wise, I was just curious why.
Pardon me?
What's your demographic?
The demographic of the people who got the flu shot.
Why is that accumulated in Smyrna?
Yeah, I think number one, there's not as many resources available outside of the health department. So we always see a higher WIC number and a higher immunization number in Smyrna, usually proportionate to their size and staff size.
Okay.
So I think that's what you're seeing there.
I just heard today about, I guess there's been an outbreak of mumps in Nashville. Have we had any reports of mumps that you know of here? in
No,
Rankin
that
County?
would be immediately I'd know about that. And so no. Yeah.
Of course, now that I've asked about it, it'll.
Yeah. Well, hope not.
Any questions about the report? I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, you've got another agreement?
Yes, the agreement that I have also as well, this is that kind of, we usually laugh about it a bit. So y'all have already agreed to make all these payments in the budget year for 16-17 to the state for the health department. And this is just the agreement now, 6 or 7 months later,
Nice.
that the state has sent asking us to have it signed. So of course I need to take it through the procedural process with you guys.
Is it any different than anything we've talked about?
No, sir. And I had Miss Nolan look at it to make sure the numbers matched up with everything that y'all had agreed with and paperwork-wise, and she said it was correct.
Move
So-
to approve the agreement.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Very good.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate your support.
Community care, do we have, is it on the iPad? I didn't look to see. Yes, there is a community care report. Like the mayor mentioned, it was pretty straightforward this month. If you've got any questions about that, you can let us know.
Things are going well.
All good? Okay. Any questions about that report? All right, we'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. All right, let's take just a minute here then to invite Mr. Cates up. Ben Cates, he is the coordinator for our recreation department, and so he's going to tell us about all the good things that they're doing there.
I met with the mayor this afternoon, and he wanted to know about me coming tonight. And I said, well, sure. Anytime that you want to talk about recreation, I'll be glad to talk. And I'll make this quick. I know I wasn't on the agenda probably, but.
It was a pretty short report for community care, so it worked out just fine.
Okay, good, good. I just want to share our rec program. What we try to do is use existing facilities, and of course our working relationship is with our director of schools and our school board, and then from there I go to the principal, and the principal decides whether they want to participate or not. We go where we're wanted and go where we're needed. We don't have enough money to go to every school anyway. We would have to do that over a 5 or 10 year plan probably. Let me share just some numbers, and I told the mayor this afternoon I'm not a numbers person. I think quality is much more important than how many people you have at your representative times, but my conservation board wants to know, what our numbers are like, so we keep numbers as far as our attendance. We have a winter program which starts in October and goes through April, which is of course going on right now. I'll share with you what 15-16 did last year. We had attendance at our 17 schools, a little over 19,000 children to participate. That was a little over 1,000 per school, which I thought was very good. We have a junior pro football at Eagleville that's attended really well. We have a junior pro basketball throughout the county. I think we've got 12 schools there, and we had over 1,000 young people to sign up for junior pro basketball, which was, if people had told me that at the beginning, I'd said that will never happen. I want to fast forward though and just share with you the fact that we have completed our junior pro basketball this year, and we've gone to 1,203, which is 77 more children than we had last year. I don't know why we keep growing, but we do. The children seems to have, they really have a good time. Parents and grandparents, they're very interested to watch as they come and see their children and grandchildren, and we've got a lot of good people that work through this program. As far as our summer program of last year, and of course we'll start June and July, we go 8 weeks in the summer. We had last summer at our 24 places last summer, we had a little over 18,000 attendance at these 24 places. We had 852 children to participate in our softball, coach pitch, and baseball leagues that are throughout our county area. We started this particular thing at our respective places and communities. I didn't feel like, why should a child that lives, say, in Milton have to drive to Murfreesboro to practice? Why don't we go out in the areas and have our teams and everything play there? Now they have to travel, say, from one school to another, but they don't have to. They can practice there. They're with the people that they live around and go to school with and everything. We started this program about 30-something years ago, and it has grown and I think really helped the communities. I'm very fortunate to have people that love to be around young people, and I let the principal choose who they want. We call it open gym. The principal will choose the person that they want to work with me in recreation. In the summer program, we will have Monday through Friday, we'll have a 4.5-hour day, and they will come, no charge or anything, and just come and have fun. I furnish, my board furnishes the basic equipment. Of course, a lot of things are already there as far as your nets and things to play volleyball and things such as that. Sometimes they will go around in the county. We'll furnish a bus if they want to take them swimming, or maybe just over to the library or places like that, just to take them to different places. And then, of course, in the winter program, we have a 3.5-hour block, just simply because where school is going on. They may start at 3 o'clock and end at 6 o'clock, or they may come in the weekends. It depends on whether it's elementary, middle schools, or high schools. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. As far as our league summer programs, I have one employee who is the league commissioner. The people in the areas, we have community presidents that take care of that area. They pay their own officials. They pay for the electricity. They get this money from the concession stands and things such as that, but it's a community thing. They come in and they mow the fields. They have everything ready when that night comes, and they host people from all over. And you better bring chairs with you when you come to those games at night, because people come, say if Eagleville plays Las Casas, and those people will, fellowship and everything, and it's just a good night to people to sit down and have a good time, and the children being there and they're having a good time too. It's a community thing, and that's what we work around. And again, as I said, we use existing facilities. Those facilities have been bought and paid for by the taxpayers, and it makes them feel good when they can take their children or grandchildren, or even, as I'm speaking right now, at Kittrell we have adult groups that will come there and walk till 7 o'clock, and then Mr. Brandon will open it up for our children to come in and play basketball and things such as that. But if you involve and allow your taxpayer to come to these facilities, and it's free, they have a safe environment, then when that school asks those people to come and help at ball games and fellowships and things at schools, they will be more likely to come in and say yes, because they have gotten to use that facility free of charge. I'll be glad to field any information. I enjoy talking about this, as you can see, and I hope that that's opened up some things for you as far as what's going on in county recreation. Any questions?
Well, thank you for the effort.
Okay, thank you.
Mr.
Appreciate you,
Gates,
Coach.
I want to compliment you, because as long as I've been on county commission, you have been on the recreation, and you have done a fabulous job
Thank you.
for this
I
county.
appreciate that.
And a lot of people don't even know what
I
all
know.
you do.
I know.
And
I've got friends of mine that still don't know that I'm recreation director. But that's
they
By
just
the-
think you're one of the children.
By the way, this is my 45th year to do this. So, yeah. But I enjoy it.
He hadn't aged, did he?
Well, young people will keep you young if you'll just stay around them long
Well,
enough.
maybe the Cripple Creek, he can.
Well, that may be it too. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thanks for coming, appreciate it. All right, special projects report, Ms. Jolly. She sent this out about a week or so ago, so we've had a chance to look at it. Are there any significant changes you want to mention?
The only changes I've added the numbers to the Rockville High School
Okay.
and charged it out like to all the various categories. That's basically it.
Okay. Any questions for Ms. Jolly? We'll entertain a motion.
I move its approval.
All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. Good job, as
Thanks,
always.
Teresa.
All right, school board. How's it going, Min? Welcome.
We've got some information to request for you this evening. I think about a month ago when we were looking at Rockville High, and we pulled Rocky Fork Elementary off for the September borrowing cycle. This is my 5th year, and one of the things that I promised early on 5 years ago basically was, if we can add on or we can do an expansion somewhere, we'll try to do that. It's cheaper than building the core all over again, that sort of thing. So what we have tonight is a combination of requests again, which I'll kind of go over quickly with you, some of this, that are expansions. The high school, Rockville High, is a 2-year borrowing cycle. It's 2 years. So we would like to do some design. We'd like to also look at some other buildings that would be additions, and I'll try to justify that if you'll look at the second sheet with me, which happens to be today's attendance. And if you're worried about flu, it was 95.03 today % attendance, which is really quite normal for winter. When you get that 95% mark especially. The first one is Oakland Middle School Annex. And the two that stand out, and I did put that in bold type, Oakland Middle is now at 1094. Last year it was 1072. They've grown 22. But the combination of that's really created our concern. If you look down at Siegel Middle, those two are now, Siegel Middle's now 1120, and they've grown 77 or 7.4%. We're still seeing 16 schools in Rutherford County that grew by 4% or more, as you can kind of see on the column list to the far right. So what we would like to do is request that we do the addition to Oakland Middle School. You have already purchased the land there, which was $597,200. So what we're dealing with now is the final design and for the actual build out. It will be very similar to what's at Blackman Middle School. Blackman Middle really took off, and that's on that sheet too, the second school listed there. They've grown 9% this year. They're now 1,340. That area still is growing very, very quickly, and my guess is when we do the Oakland Middle, we're going to see a very fast growth there too. Of course, most of you know that area next door to it, which was the Elrod property, Frank Lewis Elrod's property. Again, I think that's something in the neighborhood, and 150 or so is townhouses, single dwellings. About 2 miles down the road at 96 towards Las Casas is another development. There was initially going to be 170 or so. I'm hearing 250 or something for that one now. They've cut roads further back. Supposed to start the building those houses this spring. Others further out is out actually towards Milton, what people in Las Casas there call 12 corner area or something in that. So we know, we can already see what's there. We also added, your third sheet is portables. So you can see that what we moved into Oakland Middle, we now have 7 portables. We have moved all of those from John Coleman, placed them at other schools where we needed them to try to anticipate that. So what we're trying to do, again, is not put children in portables if we can. It's just rather not. There's 7 portables also, portable classrooms at Siegel Middle. So those two are already, both of those are already overcrowded. The second request is Siegel High School addition. When Siegel High was built, one of the designs in the design was stubbing out for an addition there. There are actually 10 portables at Siegel High School. The board would like to, well, what the board is going to have to do, when Rockvale High opens about 2 years down the road, we're virtually going to have to rezone the high schools. You're going to move kids from Riverdale and from Blackman back out to Rockvale, someone plus Rockvale and that area in there. Some of the kids from Oakland will come back probably to Riverdale like they were a few years ago. Some of the Siegel kids may come back to Riverdale also. Plus we've got to do a little bit better job of the line at Oakland. Oakland High is now our largest high school. If you notice that, it actually passed Blackman High this year, about I don't know, 8 or 9, maybe more at Oakland High, 2163 at Oakland High, and Blackman High today had 2154. So I guess 9 more there. So that area, again, is still growing. If we can get that addition there, that'll let us move out of the portables. And then when we do the rezoning, we'll do a more complete rezoning for all of our high schools. Probably will not affect a lot of Smyrna and Laverne at that time. When you look at the numbers at Siegel High, it's a little bit misleading. He has 360 seniors this year, but his junior class is about 440, and all of the freshmen, sophomores are all over 400. So the numbers next year, without anybody moving in, will be over 1,800 there. So that's just fact. You can kind of look at that and see. The other 2 things that we would like to do, Laverne Middle School, and we added from John Coleman, we added to Laverne Middle a double wide and a single, or 3 classrooms at Laverne Middle. The property we have at Laverne Middle is not large enough to do what we did at Blackman, but there is room for a 2-story addition there. Probably not be able to get the gym and that sort of thing, but we can do educational space, we can do classrooms. So it would be our desire to go ahead and do that. And Ms. Cook, you can speak to the development there when it started. You and I sat here about 2 years ago and said, well, airport's there, lake's there, kind of built out. Maybe it's going to kind of hold for a while, but that didn't last too long, did it?
I understand that one of the subdivisions was denied the other day in the flood area, so which I was happy to hear that, because that was around 350, 400 housing. So maybe that'll help us a little
little bit.
But we still have 300 it's opening up behind the post office.
Yes, that's what I look at when I travel down in that area. I mean, Laverne is growing again. I was today at Rock Springs Elementary, which is on the south side, of Laverne. And if you will look at that, they told me today they had grown about 40 students since Christmas. And that's an elementary school, but when you look at Rock Springs Elementary with 998, they're 2 away from 1,000 there. So that's an issue for us too, in that area.
And you're going to have more because you got a big subdivision going in there.
Yeah, I watched today, I could see the road wrapping around the backside of it coming around.
And they're nice houses
They are
too.
nice.
These are very nice houses.
And the Pewitt Farm, which is across the road, kind of north and northwest of them, when that fills up, that's going to be an issue for us too. But tonight, we're not saying that. We're going to try to deal with possibly, Mr. Carty says we have another space for addition at Roy Walden, which might help us deal with those townhouses and some of the other development that you're talking about there. Which again, by adding on, would be a much cheaper way to go. Don't think we've got enough students there now to build a whole new elementary in Laverne, but by doing this expansion. The Laverne Lake Elementary, we really do not have space to even put a portable there. And you can look at that number, 981. That's a large elementary school. But we just really, they're using everything they can do, but we just really can't even put a portable.
I thought that's where the 37 acres were, at the Laverne Lake.
But it's down in that.
Is that the sinkhole area?
That is what it is.
Yes, ma'am, if you
It is.
recall, we had to cut into the side of the bank up there to get Laverne Lake.
Okay. Sorry.
So what we're requesting is that, and another thing we were told that if we're going to ask for something, because you have to develop the county budget too, just like we do, that we need to get the request in so that by March, so that it can be built in the county budget, any kind of repayments you're going to do. So cycling to a different time did not seem to be the wise thing for you to make a decision, and maybe for us either. So the request is really $19,635,000. And the last sheet is kind of some changes. The 14-inch sheet is some of the building projects and that sort of thing that what we have now. The yellow's been funded, completed, blue, of course, I guess right before the middle has too.
They've been approved.
They've been approved, right. So you can kind of track and see where we are on that. We may have to do a little bit more core drilling at Laverne Middle to make sure we're okay there. Which we think we are, because we've got the other building there, but that's one of the things. Another thing we've noticed, and those of you that may be involved in building, steel prices are up close to 10% this year. So when you looked at this sheet in October, Mr. Carty's had to go back and make the adjustments. So builders are busy and steel prices are increasing. So hit us with some questions or thoughts that you have, and we'll try our best to address it if we could.
Okay, the blue is what we've approved and has been funded. The yellow is what's proposed. But on the top row up here, the John Coleman and Roy Waldron, shouldn't those be in blue?
Those are completed projects. I'm colorblind.
Okay.
He really is. He really is.
So you need somebody else to look at these sheets for you.
They look different to me. Yeah, I've tried to show the completed projects in that top duller yellow.
It's the same yellow. It's,
No, they're very different colors to me.
okay.
The top one looks green and the bottom one looks yellow.
I'm going to absolutely take your word for it. I had a chance to watch the work sessions that you guys had, and I saw you wrestle with the best way to do this. I mean, I don't know if anybody else had a chance to watch those or not, but from what I gathered, the Rockville High School was going to give you some relief at Riverdale and Blackman. The Siegel Addition, even though those numbers are down, was going to help you from Oakland, which has 10 portables now. Is that right? And it's just, you said it's basically just landlocked. There's just nowhere else to go with any more, period.
Not- And how big do we want a high school to become?
Right. And then,
When you get, much over that 2,000 mark, we've done 2,500. It's not desirable.
and then like you
Because
said,
you still got one basketball team, one football team, and that's, I mean, as many kids do not get to play. You may have a higher caliber team, but you don't really get as many kids.
And our cores are not designed to have
They're
that
not.
many
right.
kids.
The 1972 core
Yeah.
in Oakland, Riverdale.
And then you also need that space to support your growth at Siegel Middle.
True.
So, I mean, those are all the things that feed into the argument of, even though Siegel's numbers are down, it's smart to do an addition there because it's like a relief valve. They're going to give us some relief in some other areas. It's kind of how I gathered.
We'd be better off to kind of try to get ahead of this if we can.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying we're through in high school, but we're in better shape with this and Rockville High coming online. Probably a little better in the high school than we've been. But remember, and I said this in the work session, the last 4 years, our average growth for high school has been 494 new students every year in high school.
It's so great.
Well, the enrollment change has grown by 494 per year in our high school grades. So you're approaching 2,000 students new students in 4 years. Now, will that pattern continue? I'm not sure, but time we get Rockville built, then you're going to be looking, if that pattern holds, almost a new 1,000 new students by then.
But that won't take care of all the portables of the new high school. But
We shuffle them around. Hopefully, again, portables about $15,000-$16,000 to
and you have how
move
many
a
students?
portable.
How many students you have in a portable?
Usually they're a classroom, unless principal
35.
sometimes might put an ELL class. Well, if it were elementary, it might be 1 to 20 or 1 to 25 because that's what your ratios run. In a few cases, it might be an ELL or a special populations area where you might run a little less than that. One of the things that we're designing, and if you remember when you went through John Coleman as kind of a prototype, there were some smaller rooms where we could take what used to be one classroom and you can do some of the interventions. You could do some of the work in language and all with the student population we're receiving. And we're about 2,900 English language students right now. And I'll tell you all this, I don't know what's going to happen, but the state is saying, well, it's actually already written down, they're going to reduce the ratio of English language teachers to students from 1 to 40 required to 1 to 35. That's 13 more teachers for us at 50, 60,000. So just for us to reduce the ratio by 5 because our population is about $750,000. They put these things out, little physical impact, unless you're in Rutherford County or somewhere like that, you know.
Well, and I was talking to Ms. Hall, and right now we are well over, I think it was over 3,200 ESL students.
I
In
haven't
October, it was 27, 28,
Wow.
which is that is the period we're
I think we
funded
passed
on.
Knoxville, I really do. I think we'll probably be third in the state. I think it would be Metro Nashville, Memphis, and probably Rutherford County.
And Ms. Cook, I would say on the low side, we've got 2,800 students in portables, and it's probably more 3,500, that range, 2,800 to 3,500.
So that's basically 2 high schools.
Could be close to
Yeah.
that.
High school in the
1.5.
middle, yeah, 1.5.
In the sheet you just gave us, you've got 147
Right.
portables in use.
Yeah.
I mean, there's virtually no way to build our way out of that
But
in a year. I mean,
you know, I just don't want us to get behind. I don't want it to happen. one of the reasons I'm doing this too, or went to the board to do this, I don't want you to look 2 years down the road. Next year's election year too. But look 2 years down the road, and here we are, 2 or 3 schools behind.
I ran the
We didn't
numbers
need
for
to.
next year, assuming we fund all this year. Next year, we still need to fund another 76 million. So, and that was just, that only got us, they got us a school and land.
The figure that we had when we were doing budget and finance to finish out Smyrna Middle, to finish out David Urey, finish out Rocky Fork was 63 million in borrowing, and some other dollars. Had we added Rocky Fork Elementary to that, you add 30, so you were at 93. This one certainly takes us even to about 83, but still, you know, we need to bite it a little bit at a time,
Right.
as nearly as we can.
Yeah. Well, and that's not unique to the school situation. I mean, that's the same thing we faced when we were looking at, you know, we've had conversations recently about, you know, needing to keep up with salary increases for our public safety folks, you know, with just the pay table in general. If we don't keep up with it a little bit at a time, then it hits all at once. So, yeah, this is just a problem across the board. It's not unique to schools. We just have to figure out how to manage it because your numbers are such big numbers.
But again, if you look at that second sheet, if you look where it's got 1170 for our growth, in the 4 high school grade, we're going 476, and the 3 middle school grades, 6, 7, and 8, that's 392. Your whole elementary, which is K through 5, is 274. So again, where we're seeing our high growth is in middle high. I just think a lot of people return to us from middle high. You know,
I know
really
people
see that.
move around a lot, and I was just, and not like I am. When I move in, and I'm there. I just wonder what the percentage of the parents are moving from one school to another. In other words,
It wouldn't
buying a
change
house, selling their house here and going to another area.
unless it were from Muffinsboro to Rutherford County. The 1170 there, see, if they move from one school to another, that number wouldn't change. If they
Okay.
move from one county school to another, I mean, they're just
It's a wash.
subtracting
Okay.
one, added, it just
Right.
washes out.
Okay.
But the 1170 would be a net increase, basically, is what you're seeing. But I've asked the principals a lot, and we've grown. I put the first month there, 43,642. We're now 43,856. And I'm not trying to be a frightening person, but the last time I saw this, we graduated 38 people over the Christmas holidays. If you're going to have any high school kids, they'll drop out after the first semester. But you still, this year, grown well over 200 students. And of course, our big year for Rutherford County School was 2006-07. That number was almost 1,800 students. But I'm just saying to you, the patterns we're seeing now look eerily similar to what we were seeing during that high growth period right before, of course, things stopped. You had kind of that crash. But that's what we're seeing. And you see it because it comes to you for approval of a subdivision and zoning. I mean, I know. You see the same thing we do.
The demand for lots is higher than the actual lots we have at this time. So the prices are going to continue to kind of climb until the development catches up with the demand. At that time, it'll kind of level off, and then we actually kind of look forward to seeing a huge growth at that point when prices stabilize more. So we actually feel like we're going to see more growth than we're seeing right now once the lot development gets caught up.
The 274 elementary school, 274.
That'd be K through. Well, then there's some at Eagleville. I didn't try to separate out because I was doing 47. There's some of those are on there.
And so that group of kids matriculating are not going to have
You know, we've seen
impact.
kind of this pattern for the last several years. I
That's
think
what I
people
thought.
homeschool and go to private schools in the area.
So the low elementary school, I'm saying low relative to the high school growth. This ratio you've seen in some years past.
Yes.
Low elementary and your growth is for the last few years.
I mean, and I think again, they changed the requirements for college. You have to have 2 years of a foreign language in the same subject. That's hard to do if you're homeschooling. You're seeing now, because of our megatronics, with our construction industry offerings in CTE, people come back to us in high school because we have some good offerings for kids. We align our career and technical education offerings. We meet with different groups of the Chamber of Commerce. Health is big in Rutherford County now. And again,
And the dual
megatronics.
enrollment credits, that's a big deal.
The dual enrollment, and that's saving you some money. That really is helping them in college too. We're still doing night classes, online classes, and that sort of thing. We're still doing a good bit of that also.
This may be getting a bit to where you were on the elementary students, Commissioner. We did have, when the city made the choice to go in the community feeding program, and it did not match our demographics. We did that year, we saw a drop in our elementary students. And when they opened their most recent elementary school. Overall Creek. And I also think we're seeing some drop off in younger students because of the economic situation. In the Great Recession, the birth rates tend to drop a bit in those times too. So I think it will pick up.
This basically 5-year plan, if my math is correct, and it's not exact, but that's $400 million.
Yes, sir. It's frightening, isn't it?
$400 million.
$500 million.
Just in buildings.
I know.
And that's not the staff. And that's not anything but building.
I know.
$400 million.
I fully understand that.
And you mentioned, at least mention, expanding instead of building. Wouldn't it make much sense to expand? You don't have to go out and buy property. You don't have to do other kinds of things. And you mentioned basketball. I'm not sure that basketball should wag the dog, but wouldn't it make more sense, instead of building schools 2 and 3 miles apart, or even 6 miles apart, if you have to drive down the road, to expand instead of build those new schools where we don't have them so close together? To me, have you guys, I'm just asking, has the board talked about that thoroughly enough from the financial impact and what it might save the county over a long, long, long period of time? And I don't mean just for the next, till we open that school, but for the next 30 years, the next 40 years, because it's not going to slow down. You mentioned the Chamber of Commerce. So wouldn't it make more sense just to really thoroughly discuss expanding those schools instead of continuing to build all the new ones so close together? And I've said it, I don't know how many times sitting in this committee, if you look at where we're building, we're not building over here. How many high schools are over here? There's none. And all the high schools are down there. Sooner or later, in my mind, way down the road, long after I'm gone, that it's going to catch up with us, and we're going to have that situation over there. So it just makes some sense to me that we look at expanding versus building. I'm just $400 million. It's really, really difficult for me to take a look at that 5-year plan and say, oh yeah, let's jump on board on that. I don't know. I have no idea where that money could possibly come from. None. Additional revenues. Well, I guess I do, but additional revenues are just non-existent. We've looked and looked and looked, and there's nothing there.
It would take a private act or something to change your situation, I think, for you.
So number one, this $400 million is, what was it before you brought in these new figures? So
It was virtually, it was virtually the same,
We moved
except that he
up.
did have to change because of the steel,
Yeah.
about 10%. He adjusted some of the major ones there, but this is about the same as what you saw in October, but some reprioritization.
And we moved Laverne Middle up.
Yes, Laverne Middle in there. You know, of course, again, Mr. Phillips, all four of these are additions. And of course, when we purchased the property for Siegel Middle School, we purchased the land there for Siegel High School. So if we have to add on that side, I think Rockville will help us for a while. But one thing that frightens me, look up there at Buchanan Elementary this year. Look at that. They have grown 7.6%. A whole lot of that even in the, there's a lot of city out there, but they're coming to us. I mean,
And Christiana.
Christiana, and I mean, it's frightening. When every time I sit down and look at this, you know, it's like the little guy putting his finger in the dike, you know, which hole do you stop?
Have we not had additions to Riverdale, to
Yes.
Oakland?
Yes.
And I know
Both
we have
annexes,
Oh,
yes.
Well, the annexes, and then when we did additions besides the annexes, we had an addition at Blackman High, Blackman Middle.
it didn't increase the
elementary
core
schools.
though, right?
Well, at Blackman High, we got criticism for it at the time, but the core at Blackman High, since our schools were hitting 2,000, we built a bigger core was designed, so it could better.
PBA actually built
So
that.
Yeah.
what is the core now at Blackman?
We were talking 2,000 back in the day.
Blackman High core.
Before
I'm not sure.
We're just about at capacity on it now, but we haven't expanded the core
Right.
since we put the other additions on. But to your point, we are expanding on the schools that we have room for and property on site. But one thing to consider, which I think you've touched on something that could really be important, is that perhaps when we're purchasing property and building schools, to go ahead and increase those cores to maybe on a high school 2,500 or something, and then leave room on the property to put more wings on them. So I think that's something that's worth looking at. I know that the school board has resisted increasing the capacity of the schools just for simple fact of the management issues when you get all of over 2,000 students in them.
How's Nashville, Davidson County handling the growth? Everything that we're hearing on the news this year is that they're growing faster than we are. How are they handling that growth?
Jeff, they're finally going to build a new school this year.
One,
One.
how are they handling the
I don't know,
growth?
they haven't had any real growth.
I just wondered if we're exploring, looking at how other, like Davidson County, how are they handling the growth? I'm thinking a lot of folks are moving from Davidson County to Williamson County because of our educational system, and I don't know. I don't have any answers. I'm just, right now, I'm a concerned father, grandfather,
You should be
and
concerned.
taxpayer of the county, and all of these things are kind of rumbling through my mind, and I know that they are a lot of other folks that are out there, that the growth is, it's overwhelming. It's just like building a new school. I don't think we ought to approve a new school unless the figures that relate to transportation and infrastructure is included in that. So if you build a new school on Amarillo Road, part of that cost should be, does the road need to be improved? And if the road needs to be improved, we need to do it at that time, not at some other time where down the road. It should be considered part of the cost of building that school. And that's not anything that we're considering.
That gets back to something I mentioned last night in public safety, and that is we need probably a better, more integrated approach to planning and for growth, because we need to be building fire EMS stations and so on to support these areas and so on. But one question that I have is, when is the last time the board or the school administration taking a look at alternative facility utilization or alternative scheduling to
Right now, the state requires, to stockpile days, they require a 7-hour school day. We looked at, did some studies. I mean, back when Ragsdale was here, some others. I went to year-round school, I think in California and Florida, at Orlando and Ince Grove. When I went down there, Orlando, when Disney World started up, they backed away from it. It's very difficult to get the number of hours and what they ran into it. An interesting thing today, when I was at Rock Springs Elementary, I looked at him and said, what time are you going to have to start feeding your elementary kids next year? And he said, I've thought about it. It looks like it may be as early as 9:50. That's really hard, but you know, his cafeteria is not big enough to you run them through there and they got 25 minutes to eat and you're feeding them bam, 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 as fast as they can go down through that line to do it. But as you get these really large elementary and middle, that dynamic plays into it. You can feed them breakfast, but then again, you're turning around and feeding them 2 hours later, 2.5. You're having to serve them lunch to finish by about 1. If you don't, they're really hungry, a lot of them, at times. So all of that plays into it too, especially in your core, and how much they run at least 2 serving lines. And if you try to design 3, then that is more employees, that's more things to still feed the same number of kids. There's not a good solution to that dynamic.
Do y'all know how Williamson County raised their impact fee just recently?
Glad
Y'all
you,
looked at that?
Mr. Clardy can tell you more about Williamson because he dealt with them one time.
Some fee
before.
just increased, I heard, dramatically.
It did. I haven't researched it yet, though.
I've got our planning director trying to find out from their employees over there how they actually accomplished that. They're on a different structure than we are to start with. They on a square footage basis, and their houses about twice as large as
They're on a
ours.
square foot basis for
They start at $1 per square foot.
as opposed to our lot.
Our $1,500 period, okay? So, and their square footages are more than double ours. So they've had a very substantial advantage all of this time. But now how they have added anything in addition to that, I don't know yet, but we're trying our best to find out.
I heard that their estimate of their impact fees over the next 4 to 5 years, because they're actually growing at a little faster percentage than we are now, but maybe not numbers. From their impact fees, they're expecting somewhere between 300 to 400 million.
in other words, enough to pay for a new school or 2
And
or 3.
3 or 4 or something.
That's unbelievable.
That was a figure I heard.
A builder shared with me this week, he indicated a $12,000 to $15,000 per dwelling increase in their costs. So it must be purchased at permitting, it must be paid. So that's just curious how they did it, because we've been told our hands are tied.
Well, of course, what we're seeing now is the new starter home is a townhome, because people can't go out and buy a $60,000 lot and put a $200,000 house on it. Young couples starting out.
Where do you
maybe
find the
with
$200,000 houses in Williamson?
Well, I'm talking about here.
Oh, here.
Basically, I mean, and that's very much low end, so people are settling for the townhouse, which that ups your density, obviously.
The lot widths are becoming more narrow. Yes.
Impact fee still.
We don't have an impact fee, it's called a development tax, and it's $1,500. I think it's split $750 and $750 by the time the deed's recorded and the application to build is applied for.
And you got ambulance service and sheriff's office, and I mean, you've got many other things that's impacting that when the numbers come.
That's, I'm just trying to remember, that's been in effect for at least 20 years. Maybe even a little longer than that, but very close to that. And it's been the same for that whole period of time, I believe. But I didn't mean to to create
It's fine.
a lot of additional discussion, but you're the one that brought this, okay? So
Okay, it's fine. I've never been one to hide anything from you, okay? So
if you look
it's
at,
there.
I know you haven't. If you look at 57, 31, 137, 88, 74, those are staggering enough, but when you add them together,
It is.
and you talk about $400 million, and I'm not sure that's the exact figure, but it's pretty close to that. I'm old, but I can still do a few additions in my head, but $400 million over 5 years, and you guys have never, ever stuck to that, okay? So next year, that $400 million could even be more as you begin to get next year's enrollment figures together. So you take a look at $400 million and you know that it's probably going to go up a little bit. And that's the reason that I'm saying maybe the board, Wayne, ought to start looking at what you don't want to do and say it might be in the best interest of all the citizens of the county, including our children, to explore other alternatives rather than just to build new schools. You know, and you mentioned basketball, and I don't know, but there has to be alternatives to that too. If you had a school that big, couldn't you have 2 teams? One could be a AAA team and one could be a single A team. I don't know, but there has to be alternatives that we need to explore. And in my mind, all we talk about is buying land and building schools. And I don't know if we're having those discussions the way that most people, and I know I'm probably not looking at the way you guys are, but I'm just not sure we're having them with enough of an open mind to say what is in the best interest of this county long term. And I don't mean 4 or 5 years. I'm talking about 30 years down the road. 30 years down the road, we're going to have 650 to maybe even 750,000 people in this county. And what's the alternative? To continue to build schools the way we have, or do we need to look at it doing it a little differently?
I actually had that same conversation recently with Mr. Zago, who's over curriculum, who would be the person to figure out how do we educate all these kids in these buildings. And I said the same thing to him. I said, you know, this is just not a sustainable pace. And so, and I know all the different things you guys have looked at and explored, but I mean, the message is clear from us, and I think you know it too. You know, we only have so much to work with, and so any creativity we can get that can feed into the solution, we've got to continue to pursue it.
I think another thought that the board should consider is that I firmly believe that especially this committee and the commission right now as a whole is very pro-education. But if all this drives the tax rate too high, there could be a taxpayer rebellion. There could be a bunch of us replaced who just say, no, we're not appropriating it. And that is a scary thought in my mind, but it is a realistic possibility in the political world. So I think that we definitely got to start thinking outside the box. We've got to start putting our best and brightest minds here in Rutherford County to coming up with, and that involves a task force. It's going to involve a lot of different people. It's not just educators, but other people too. But we've got to, as Jeff has so mentioned tonight, we've got to start thinking outside the box and try to. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, but we've got to start thinking. And I know we've got a lot of smart people.
You've headed up the curriculum piece of Rutherford County education for a long time. That was your bailiwick. And now you're dealing with something that you probably really don't like dealing with.
I do not enjoy this, and you don't either.
So
I know.
Join the club.
I know.
And
I know.
it's a situation I know you'd a whole lot rather be figuring out better ways to educate kids than to build buildings to put them in. And our biggest concern is not building them, it's how to pay for them.
Right.
this $400 million, although that's staggering enough, it's a drop in the bucket as it relates to the reoccurring expenses that it's going to take to staff those schools.
One of the things about that, as your student numbers go up, you do get the ADM, and so 55% roughly, if it turns out last year, is state monies. About another 10% is federal monies. I mean, it's in the state report card. So we're getting about two-thirds, roughly two-thirds of our funding comes from state or federal. So as they come in, some of that will come down to us from another
We're not
source.
getting any money for these capital costs that we're incurring.
Right.
Debt service,
Right.
you haven't
Right.
included
Right.
the $25 million a year that we're having to put in for debt service, thereabouts approximately, every year.
The legislature's never chosen to address that.
It's in their BDP formula, but nothing ever comes through there.
And they will agree with a university that said, well, if you'll come up with a part of the funding, we'll give you the rest. And they never do this with our schools. You know, you're talking about this growth, and you're chairman of our planning commission. It seems like out in the area where I'm at, getting ready to put this new high school or whatever, I got notification just this week of your next upcoming planning commission meeting. You've got 5 projects coming up on that one. I've got 3 of them. And I was talking to Doug DeMasi, and I said, I'm renaming my district out there. It's going to become the District of Oz, because nobody is staying in Kansas anymore. They're all moving here. And that's just the way it is. What this county is, everybody is coming here. And we're talking about this growth, and it may sound like that we're dumping on
I understand.
you guys, but y'all have the difficult task of finding places to put these little bottoms in, and finding enough places to put them. And then we're trying to, and we've got the difficulty of paying for places to put them. And we're stuck with that task tonight of what to do with what you brought us tonight and how to do this. And what do you do with growth? You know, I think I mentioned this the last meeting we had. I was around when we decided to take all these smaller high schools out here and do away with them and consolidate into 2 great big high schools that would take care of everything we had in Rutherford County for the rest of our lives. And nobody could believe that these gigantic high schools would fix it all. And it didn't. And now those are small high schools. We're saying that they're overcrowded right now. We've got this right here. And I don't think we found the answer here tonight.
No, there is no answer.
And we don't have a gate. There's not a gate in any end of this county that say, hey, you can't come through, you can come through, whatever. So I think we hit on some ideas of where we've got to look and whatever. I think what we've got to do now is decide what do we do with this tonight and where we go from here. One question I want to ask, I see that we've got 2 schools that were looking at just the design work. Am I exactly right? That's all? I think we're looking at maybe, what, 15 million to finish those schools out?
Would you estimate that it would be
Is that what?
Laverne Middle and
This is all we're looking at tonight.
Yes, and I
In addition to
debated,
the 58 from last month?
Yes.
Yes.
This is the expansion.
Keep bringing it up.
that the top sheet is the update on what the board voted. I kind of agonized on what to do with the sheet with the color. I did not move anything else around. We will have our meeting next year in the fall and do that kind of moving around. But the things the board voted on, I moved those around, didn't move the others from the last version. So I debated whether or not we put this together, but y'all are used to seeing it. It ties to this top sheet, so I thought that might be.
This top sheet, what I like about it is the expansions versus building the new, and that's exactly the hint of what at least this commissioner was driving at, is that I can live with those a lot better, knowing that we're utilizing existing facilities. So this shouldn't say it doesn't bother me, but it bothers me a lot less than a $60 million new high school.
And these additions will put more students on this sheet. The additions are
Well, they'll
bottoms
handle
in the
those
seats.
students. Yes, there'll be seats.
Yeah.
Increase the enrollment
Well, if they come.
at
that's
Open
what
Middle
they'll do.
Yeah.
and
I think.
Siegel High School.
I think the board will have to
increase the
look.
capacity and hence the enrollment.
I think the board will have to look at the zoning between Siegel Middle and Open Middle.
Yeah,
I think they'll have to look at that, because we can't continue Siegel Middle to grow 7.4% and another 7% next year.
Do these additions satisfy Oakland Middle 2% increase? Does this addition have room to grow into as well?
How many
The
seats,
principal agrees.
basically, the same as kind of Blackman,
Gonna be about 400 in it altogether.
something like that.
400 seats.
Of course, Blackman went from.
Do the millions you have here, 13 million, is it ball fields? Is it?
Yes.
But that's also with moving some out of the, well, that's with that area coming in there. Okay, I see.
In the Siegel High School, 6 million, is it an increase in
Yes.
other elements, ball fields,
No,
gyms?
No, it's just the building itself.
Yeah.
And the Oakland's annex is additional accoutrements as well.
Right.
We're going, you remember, after Rocky Fork Middle, we were too far along in that one in design. We're going to the footprint of the two-story, which takes less land and lets us add additional onto that. So if it weren't for that, you couldn't go back and look at Royal Waldron again. You just couldn't. So that's one switch we've made, basically with our designer. Let's look at two-story, or we did that at John Coleman. Rocky Fork Elementary, whenever that comes down the road, that'll be a two-story also. So, we're trying to do that to reduce the cost per square foot.
Plus, we are starting to show additions, extra space for additions on those plans and plan for them when we're building the initial school.
Yeah. Have we been doing that?
Yeah, we've been doing that some.
If we have the land.
Rockvale have that ability?
No,
Because of the site.
because of the
Will have that
site.
ability?
Yeah.
Amaville, you mean the new one coming up?
Concept.
Yeah, the concept will have some additional space for the middle and the elementary.
But for expansion, I think Jeff's
Yeah.
asking, when you consider a site, you do a concept plan, buildings, facilities, do you have expansion conceived during that design phase?
We do, and particularly since we've moved to the two-story stuff. It gives us, so we can do a larger footprint now.
But we even did that right after you came, when we redesigned the elementary and the middle schools, we looked at making them easier to expand at that point.
Right.
Well, if you'll-
And Siegel High was
Yeah.
also up front. It had room for expansion in that one area on it.
One of the things we do run into, Commissioner, that when we look at what our attendance was at Oakland and Riverdale before Blackman, but some of that space where we put portables is gone because of the additions to those schools that we did. Some of our other schools, we have already built on at a lot of our schools over the year. Christiana's, 3 additions over the decades?
Oakland, Riverdale's had 2 additions each.
One of the things Mr. Clardy did, if you look at Siegel Middle, we've looked at it, but the problem, at that time, the design was the wings. And one of the things that he did, which actually saved cost, is put it back in the T. So when you do those joists, the ceiling joists, they're all the same size. It's cheaper to make them all the same size than it is to step them in buildings. So they not only save money, but it's very difficult now at Siegel Middle, if you look at it, to try to add there because of the way the wing, the spread, where if you come out in a T or something, you either extend it or cross it. So that's...
Well, if it came down to it, you could take those little courtyards in now
Yeah.
between the
Yeah.
2 wings coming out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's just a difficult problem. I mean, it's constant, and it takes a group of people thinking about this, not just 1 or 2 people. It takes everyone's input to try to figure it out. So that's why I appreciate your input.
Well, you guys have, it's such a difficult job and educate kids, and you're spending so much time and so much effort and just building to prepare for those kids. And when you're here, 90% of what you talk about is building.
It is.
And it's just,
Unfortunate, isn't it?
it's mind-boggling to me. It just is. And I just don't know if it's $400 million for the next 5 years, what's it going to be the 5 years after that? You know, it's some point in time, there's going to be some type of a, I don't know, it's probably going to be some type of a revolt. And we've done a pretty good job working together. I think we have, and I think you know that.
You've backed us, you have.
I know.
Very much so.
But once again, at some point in time, we need to start thinking a little differently. We as a commission have to start thinking a little differently too. Just like maybe when you come up with a concept, you know, maybe part of that building plan is infrastructure. Is it there to support that school? And if it's not, then it may need to be part of the cost of building that school. Not necessarily your part, but part of the county's cost of building that school, just to make sure. There's a lot of concerns about Amaville and all of the road problems in getting to that school. And it's real. It's not just something that we're afraid of, but it's real. So we need to start looking even beyond just building schools as to how we're going to get kids to those schools.
We've got to do some road work at Rockvale. We've done the traffic studies. That area is picking up the traffic patterns, so we've done the traffic studies there too also.
But this is an adjustment to the 5-year plan. That's what this is.
Well, it picks up things that were on the 5-year plan, moves some of them up, and split some of them. For example, instead of the whole thing at Laverne Middle, you're doing just design now. So we're splitting some of the cost up in multiple years also.
It's hard to put additions on when you got portables there that's taking up your space for your addition.
We try to look where we put them now.
We don't
But we sometimes have to
let
move.
that bother us much. We just move them out of the way.
I keep saying we're gonna get some barges and go out in the lake and build some schools for Laverne.
We were faced with that in Laverne. We had some old pads there that were where we're talking about building the addition that we thought about setting those up on, but we went down to the other end and set the portables that are moving in there now. So we wouldn't have to move them at the time we start the addition when it is started.
Jeff, would you divide that 400 million by the years we have and just go to the capital market for that amount every year? That's the reality. Y'all are just moving, shifting them around, up a year, back a year. I mean, it's 400 million still is always going to be there.
That is not the motion on the table though, right?
If I made a motion to do 100 million a year, would it pass?
Madam Chairman, I think the consideration is to approve this. That's what the board is asking for, and I move that we approve this $19.6 million adjustment to the plan.
I'll second that.
Roll call vote.
Is this to go to budget?
Yeah.
Commissioner Cook?
Yes.
Commissioner Dodd?
Yes.
Commissioner Gurley?
Yes.
Commissioner Phillips?
Aye.
Commissioner Reed?
Yes.
Commissioner Allen?
Yes.
I do want to put in your mind that as an advocate for my district, as we build facilities for other schools. We've got Central kids doing long jumps on blacktop, dragging hurdles on the football fields. Excuse me, we don't have football. On the soccer fields, and baseball teams are playing on a helipad that's now obsolete. So the helipad is gone.
I didn't know that.
At the hospital level. But so, do please continue to
It's a reasonable.
consider Central. I'm not gonna stop a vote and play those kind of political games, but please consider our Central athletes and scholars are really making do with some obsolete stuff.
And I'll tag on that we have
You
a
need to go in the
performance
Rotary and
magnet
give us
school that
money.
doesn't have an auditorium, so it doesn't have a performance facility. So if you feel so inclined to build one at St. Francis, that'd
That's
be
an
awesome.
art school,
Yes,
right?
that's an art
That's their
school.
theme.
Well,
Yeah.
without an audit.
Took the old shop and put some instruments in
Yeah.
it.
And the chairman and I would never play games with budgets, but do remember our
Yes.
those
Their needs.
schools that cross all socioeconomic strata. So it's not a rich school, it's not a poor school, but they are,
Make it do.
we need some consideration.
And I owe Commissioner Jordan an apology. I meant to mention at the beginning of this meeting that he had a conflict tonight. He did call me in advance. He's the chairman of another meeting that had to be rescheduled. Everybody had the flu. Tonight was the only night they could meet, so he apologizes for not being here. But I know this is something that's very important to him, and he would want to have been here for this vote. So I apologize to him for not mentioning that earlier.
You'll get his chance, won't he?
He'll get his chance, that's right. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much for considering on behalf of the kids and all too.
I know y'all put a lot of
Good luck. You all go buy some lottery tickets and give us half of what you win.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks for being here.
Under new business, we have a resolution to urge the passage of broadband for the rural areas. And Commissioner Reed, this is a matter that's near and dear to your heart, so I'm going to let you talk to us about this.
Okay. I've already had Commissioner Hurley talking about my area out there that can't even get broadband, so. But yes, this is something that is I think, very important as far as our county is concerned here, to have our legislature take a look at this. They're in the process of that right now, working with what the governor has presented. And coming from, there was a resolution that was sent out to the commissioners all across the state, a resolution asking our county commissions to put before, sending to our state representatives and senators, asking them to go along with this program that the governor has presented there to give us this opportunity to make broadband more accessible to the rural areas within the county. And I'll just read this one to you. It is in your SharePoint. If you want to take a look at it and get a closer look at it. And what we'll be doing is asking that this resolution be sent on to, I guess,
We'll send to steering.
go on to steering, and then let steering
Send forward
go
to
from there and
commission.
see what they want to do with it. A resolution to urge passage of the Tennessee Broadband Accessibility Act by the Tennessee General Assembly. Whereas Tennessee currently ranks 29th in the U.S. for the broadband access, and whereas 13% of the state lacks access to broadband and 34% of the state's rural residents do not have broadband coverage at the recognized minimum standards because of low population density and our geographical constraints. And whereas broadband access is critical for business, education, healthcare, and agriculture, and whereas in response to this critical need for increased broadband access, Governor Haslam has proposed the Tennessee Broadband Accessibility Act, which would provide grants and tax credits to encourage deployment of broadband to previously unserved areas. Whereas in addition to grants and tax credits, the act would authorize the state's private, nonprofit electric cooperatives to provide broadband throughout their territories. And whereas the act also provides grant opportunities for local libraries to help the libraries provide more digital literacy training to the state's citizens. Whereas the county legislative body of Rutherford County, Tennessee, believes the Tennessee Broadband Accessibility Act provides necessary and reasonable steps to improve broadband access to the state. Now therefore be resolved by the county legislative body of Rutherford County, meeting in session at Murfreesboro, Tennessee on the day, and I don't have that date right there, that the Tennessee General Assembly is strongly urged to pass the Tennessee Broadband Accessibility Act in order to increase broadband accessibility in the state. Be it further resolved that the county clerk shall mail a copy of this resolution to the governor, the lieutenant governor, and the speaker of the House, and then have the dates of approval.
This is something that the whole county commission is going to vote on.
The whole county commission will vote on this after steering sees it and approves it.
Do we need to move that it be forwarded to steering, or is this just a
I
courtesy?
think we need a motion, and I'll make that motion that it be forwarded on to steering.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Awesome. All right, is there any more business for this committee?
Just to ask, does it need to go to steering? Can it go through this committee?
Normally this goes through steering. It might not have to, but let's just take it on and
New legislation?
you'll have guaranteed passage if we get it through the...
Be on the agenda for sure.
It makes sense, it does. Anyone heard from our legislative delegation as to how they're going to react to this proposal? Have we heard? Have we got any feedback
Not
from them?
officially.
It's mixed. It's
It's
what
a little
I've
bit
heard.
mixed. There's a lot of pushback from the big providers, AT&T, Comcast, etc. So it's a war between the electric cooperatives and the other major providers of these services.
If any of you saw the news article that was in the D&J, we asked at Eagleville how many students down there had to do something as far as getting their homework rather than having broadband at home. We had 10 students for sure that every afternoon had to walk from school down to the local library to use the computers there to get their homework because they couldn't get broadband at home. And then,
Do we have broadband in the school?
yes, it's in the school.
Why are we not providing access later on, access in the school?
Well,
That to me is a question because it's a resource that's there. If we have that, and I thought it was provided under the previous act and so on, we should be looking at that, not to solve the whole problem,
Yeah, that-
because there's a lot more than education.
and of course you got to understand a student too. I don't know if a student wants to stay in school and do his homework there where he can go down there and do it like that. That's not the point of this, I don't guess. I guess what you're looking at, I see what you're suggesting there. The thing is that they are having to look for other ways to do this. In fact, I know of some students that were coming into Murfreesboro to get certain subjects to take care of and whatever. I know myself, there are places I know in Murfreesboro where I've got, I can look at broadband a lot easier than I can at my house. So we were just discussing that, and that's why I said we were making jokes about my broadband at home. I've been sitting in my office there today, and with today's weather, I was having to wait for it to come up and deal with things. And what I have to do as far as getting things printed and downloaded. And it's just where our locations are and where the servers that we have in the county just don't come to. And we are facing this out here in your fringe areas of the county in particular. It's just not there.
We had extended contract when it was going all the way back to Alexander in the 80s when he created the career ladder. Followed an extended contract, which allowed teachers and all to work after we used that, but they've discontinued that also.
Okay.
A number of years ago, which we paid somebody to stay. We did activities after school for a lot of those.
That's something we might want to look at. for
Some of the larger
our-
providers that you mentioned, Mr. Mayor, what alternatives are they suggesting? None?
Limited, that's right. It's all about competition and market share. And they want to protect that.
Would it be feasible, we're saying here, be it resolved by the legislative body that the Tennessee General Assembly strongly urged, should there be, or could there be wording then there that the legislative body at our meeting strongly urges our elected delegation, list them by names, and the Tennessee General Assembly?
Certainly, that's appropriate.
bring that out.
So Miss Becky can add those other names of our specific delegations, what he's suggesting.
Do you think that's appropriate?
Absolutely.
I have no problem with that.
I amend that we move, that we amend
Resolution.
the motion to include our legislative delegations. And list them by name.
Mr. Gurley, second that. All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. I think that's smart.
Did you get a second on that?
Mr. Gurley?
I do have one question.
Okay.
On your original motion, you basically said forward it to steering committee, but did you want that to say approve and forward to steering committee?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Steering committee meets Monday night. Can this be added to the agenda? for
I
Monday
think it's on there. She hadn't issued the agenda yet, but they've got a very short agenda, so we'll be sure that's on there.
All right. Anything else for this group? We're adjourned.